Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany Hunter. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for coming back. I know that I said I was not really feeling doing Married at First Sight reaction videos anymore, but that's probably because I was reviewing every couple for as long as this season ran, and that can definitely get to be tiresome. It's a lot of people, a lot of dynamics, but I did want to take a more focused approach. So this video is simply going to focus on the couple David and Michelle from this current season. The relationship between David and Michelle reminds me of one sermon that I heard when I was single in like 2010. So the pastor was saying, wives can behave in such a way that will permanently flip their husbands' switches off. So any attention, affection, tenderness, love, you shut them completely down because of the way that you behave towards them. And that's exactly what I am seeing here with Michelle and David. So let's just give a little bit of background. Michelle and David, of course, they met and married on the same day. That's the premise of the show for those who do not watch. And David, he's an open book. So as soon as, they've said I do, they've had their spousal kiss, and they come back up the aisle, they're spending some time together one-on-one to get to know each other. And David openly admits, I do live at home with my parents. And she looks very stunned. It does not seem that this was a pleasant surprise to her. So Michelle has been shut down since David disclosed to her that he lives at home with his parents on their wedding day. She has not been able to bounce back. I do understand that the Married at First Sight social experiment is an accelerated pace when it comes to getting to know someone, but you've already married them. And within 8 weeks, you have to decide if you want to stay married or get a divorce. If you are a slower moving person when it comes to building emotional and physical intimacy, this might not be the experiment for you. So this might not have been the best experiment for Michelle. Considering her history, she admitted that her parents, they got divorced when she was very young due to her father cheating on her mother. Now, David, on the other hand, his parents have been married for some 30, possibly even 40 years. So her being the child of divorced parents and him being the child of parents that are still married, they definitely have different experiences and different views as far as what a marriage looks like and how that affects you as a child growing up and even affects your view of marriage as an adult. In regards to this whole living at home situation, the context is David owned either a condo or a townhouse. He renovated it, then sold it before moving back into his parents' basement apartment unit. His plan is to purchase a 2-flat residence within the next 1 to 2 years, which is basically you have 2 units in one. They'll have separate entrances, so it's like you got 2 apartments or 2 like townhomes in one. Michelle currently rents a 1-bedroom apartment, and she has prided herself on her independence and how hard she has worked to be in the financial position that she is now. Unfortunately, Michelle stated that she believes she is 10 years ahead of David, simply because she is living on her own while he is living with his parents. However, David has 2 jobs, and he makes nearly the same salary as Michelle. So, in actuality, they are in very similar positions in their lives, with the exception of their living situations. So what is the problem? During the matchmaking portion of this season, Michelle was on camera telling Dr. Pia that if her soon-to-be husband was living at home, that is something that she could work with. Yet, when she got exactly what she asked for or stated that she would be willing to work with, now she's upset. So the reality of David living with his parents is treated as a deal breaker. And I think she may have pitched it as an extreme preference. So I would want to know, were you dishonest in an effort to improve your chances of being matched and secure your spot on this season? Or Is your distant behavior toward your husband now due to a lack of physical attraction toward him? From day one, Michelle has opted not to open up to David because this living situation has been such a turnoff to her. For the past 6 weeks, Michelle has been disengaged and aloof in her interactions with David more often than not. The few times that I have seen Michelle put forth an effort to be somewhat remotely kind to David, it has been when he's making statements such as, well, I'd like to do activities that you want to do for dates. So let me know what you'd like to do. Maybe you can even, like help me update my wardrobe. You can dress me. Because, wives, sometimes we do dress our husbands. And I believe that husbands, sometimes they dress their wives. Like, hey, why don't you try this style? Or why don't you try this style? So that's perfectly fine. However, we have to remember Michelle and David are strangers. It's one thing for a woman and her husband who have been married for some time to make suggestions as far as outfits are concerned. It's another when you are telling a stranger they need to change their style of dress, they need to change their address, because then it gives off the impression that you are simply trying to change them. They are not enough, and there's a possibility that they never will be good enough for you. It's not the message you want to send if you're trying to cultivate a lasting marriage. Another thing that I noticed as far as Michelle being disengaged from David, not only is she distant as far as affection is concerned, but she's even withholding vital information that would help him not only get to know her better, but inform how he can be a good spouse to her. For example, Michelle did not tell David that her parents' divorce was the result of her dad's infidelity. So what happens when a young girl finds out that her father has cheated on her mother? That's going to change her perception of men. That's going to give her father wounds because now there's a broken home. That's potentially going to change how she sees men in the future. So she's going to have her guard up. She'll definitely be more inclined to develop trust issues when it comes to men. And she would therefore rightfully be shut down if she had an inkling that perhaps she was involved with someone who was not faithful. However, she did not give David this vital information. So he's already working at a deficit. On the honeymoon, Michelle even told him, I don't have a desire to share things with you that would help you get to know me better. So my thought process was, you don't want to be married, because how are you going to grow together if you don't know each other and you're not open to being vulnerable and letting each other in when it comes to these intimate details that have helped to shape you into the person that you are? Nearly impossible. It's hard to build a relationship with someone who does not want you to know anything about them. During this entire process, David has attempted to remain positive, yet, as any normal person would, he has had moments of frustration, and he has shown his frustration with Michelle's coldness toward him. Ultimately, what ends up happening is they just start shutting down. They're not talking as much on camera. They're not spending as much time together. They might be going back to their separate houses. Because where's the incentive for them to spend even more time together if they're not even communicating? When it comes to Michelle and her being cold towards David, part of me is curious if she never considered the impact that would have, not only on their marriage, but also on David's behavior towards her. Those would be questions that I would want to ask just to get more clarity around why she's behaving the way that she is. But ultimately, as I stated, the dynamic between Michelle and David, more so her behavior towards him, is an example of how in a marriage, people can behave in such a way that shuts their spouse all the way down, where they're no longer willing to fight for their marriage. They're no longer willing to even get in the ring with you because they know nothing good is going to come of this. So what happens? Now David is starting to entertain and even converse with other women, including one of the wives from the cast. So what tipped Michelle off that David might be socializing with someone else is one evening she gets a text and she says, "Who is this text intended for?" It was a flirty text. David said, "You look so good, I want to eat you up." Now, this goes to show how naive I am, because my first thought was maybe David was taking a leap of faith and deciding to show a more flirtatious and a bold side to him. But considering how often he had been rejected to no avail, he knew not to send that text to Michelle. It happened by accident. I was disappointed because I thought he was going to say, "Yeah, babe, that message was for you because I think you're fine and I want to eat you up." But that was not the case. That text was not meant for his wife. Unfortunately, it was meant for someone else. Now, he lied about who it was meant for, and then ultimately he did take some time and came back and was forthcoming. Yes, that text was intended for someone else. Yeah, just doesn't look good. So let me make sure that I'm very clear with this disclaimer. I do not condone cheating in any shape or form in committed relationships, and I especially do not condone it in the marriage covenant. Vows were taken, and this is a serious matter. If you want to behave like you are single, do not get married. Now, for Michelle's part, I also do not condone being condescending, stonewalling, and behaving in such a cruel manner toward your spouse that they check out as well. You cannot treat your spouse as though they are less than you and still expect them to give you respect, tenderness, their loyalty, their effort as far as the marriage is concerned. You will get what you put into the marriage. So if you're not putting anything in, eventually you're not going to have anything to withdraw. And in conclusion, my primary complaint for David and, feedback for him would just be, I don't like the way you handled the rejection. Instead of telling Michelle, "Hey, when you reject me, it makes me feel like this," and even expressing to the experts, "Here is what I'm trying and I keep getting met with rejection, denial. I'm hitting a brick wall here. What can I do?" Instead of taking that approach, to his detriment, he tried to maintain a positive attitude and an optimistic outlook. And it just did not work because no matter how positive of a person you are, being continually rejected, it's a losing battle. Eventually, you're going to reach a breaking point, and that is what happened with David. His breaking point did not look like an explosion, but it definitely influenced his willingness to engage in conversations with other women. Instead of going through the proper avenue of getting a divorce before entertaining those other women, David just began to text them. I think he even met up with one of them for coffee. And when Michelle said, "Hey, when you're married, you should not be texting other women or going on dates." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was not established." And that statement let me know that whatever his expectation of marriage was, this marriage with Michelle is not meeting that at all, because it's not clear to him how he's supposed to move when he's being shut down time and time and time again by the woman that he's taken vows to be with forever. Now, my feedback for Michelle would be, you cannot check out of the marriage before it even starts and yet expect your spouse to give what you have not given. Respect, honesty, with gentleness, loyalty. How can you expect someone to fight for the marriage that you're supposed to be in when you have made it very clear that you were shut down and you don't want to try? You don't want this person to get to know you better. Therefore, you're going to withhold information about yourself that would give them a better understanding on how to treat you, how to approach you, how to engage with you. David's not a mind reader. None of us are. So if Michelle wanted a different experience from her husband, her behavior definitely would have influenced that if she chose a kinder approach, led with curiosity, if she was honest, saying, hey, I might have said that I would be open to marrying someone who was living at home. However, now that this is my reality, I do have some reservations about it. Let me just be honest with you about that. Let's have a conversation. Should we decide to say yes on decision day to staying married? Are we going to be living with your parents, or are we going to, move into my place? Or how soon do you think that you would be down to, purchase a home that's just for the two of us and our family should we decide to have kids? Having those open conversations, giving David an opportunity to share his plans and to share his vision for the marriage, the same way that I would hope she would want him to do the same for her. Now they are in a dead marriage, and it didn't have to be this way. David has finally come to the realization that even if he changes all of the things that could potentially boost Michelle's attraction to him, like changing his wardrobe, purchasing a home, it still would not be enough because she does not want him. So the takeaway here, if you are dating someone and they have an ever-moving goalpost, so, hey, if you do ABC, then I'm going to be interested in you. You do ABC, and then there's another list of things. It's just an ever-moving goalpost. They have a running checklist of things that you have to do before they will take you seriously, or before they will show you affection, before they will actively engage with you and try to build a connection with you. They don't want the relationship with you. They want all of those things. They just don't want it with you. And that's exactly what I am seeing when it comes to the dynamic between Michelle and David. It does not matter what he does. It will not be good enough because Michelle has already shown she just does not want him. Sometimes I wonder if the marriage success rate on shows like Married at First Sight would be higher if we had an opportunity to see the people around them, their village, friends, family, colleagues, trusted individuals, being very honest with them and holding them accountable. Like, hey, you know that you are a slower moving person when it comes to opening up, being vulnerable, and building trust. Are you sure an accelerated social experiment like Married at First Sight, where you're going to meet and marry your spouse on the same day, is for you? Because if it's not, that's fine. Just don't sign up for experiments like these because you're wasting your time. And even worse, you're wasting the time of your potential spouse. And that is a recipe for disaster and hurt feelings and an even more tainted perception of marriage. If you go into the marriage thinking you're going to get A and you end up getting B, that could definitely leave you open to developing feelings of bitterness because now you're disappointed. This season has definitely been a doozy. I never thought I would see two people sign up for marriage and then still behave like they are single. But unfortunately, it happens every season. At least with one couple, it happens every season because I don't know that they are really understanding just what goes into an arranged marriage, because that's essentially what this is. And unfortunately, they do not have their family and their friends involved when it comes to the matchmaking process, which could be helpful. It might make for good TV, but this does not make for a lasting marriage. Well, that is all that I have to say about this topic. But let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree that husbands and wives can behave in such a way that permanently flips the switch off and now the marriage is in shambles? Let me know. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future post. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoy your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.